Now it's time for some Kung Fu fun with Kung Fu Panda, Kung Fu Panda, Kung Fu Panda 2, and Kung Fu Panda 3. This is just a collection of 3 very solidly entertaining movies. Jack Black, phenomenally cast as Poe. He just hits all those chords. Like, that man is just an absolute fucking joy. Everyone in this is like really well cast. Dustin Hoffman in there. I forget the Asian actor who plays the crane, not the crane, the goose or the duck, whatever he is, that plays Poe's adoptive father. He's in everything. He's phenomenally great character actor that appears in so much stuff, and he's always a joy whenever you see him. He's got such a distinctive voice. He's just perfect as Poe's adoptive dad. And then everybody else in it. I think Jackie Chan, Seth Rogen, Angelina Jolie, Lucy Liu, just a collection of characters in this. But each one of these really hits its mark. It's just a fun animated movie that you absolutely should check all 3 of these out. Spark up a doob for these next ones. It's the Harold and Kumar series. These are some of my favorite stoner comedies. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle is fucking incredible. I remember sneaking into this movie when I was in high school, and I fucking loved every second of it. It cracks me up still to this day. Guantanamo Bay I also love a lot too. It cracks me up so much how they play with racist stereotypes in this movie. It is super fucking funny. This is probably the outlier, the worst one of the bunch, but still has a lot of really funny moments in it. It just doesn't hit as well as the other 2, but it's fine. But these 2 are your boys. These are the ones you always go to if you're looking for a good laugh. A trilogy I just finally dipped my toes into the previous year, thanks to me finally not getting high before every movie and being brave enough to watch horror movies again. It is The Conjuring. For the longest time, I refused to watch these movies because everyone talked about how fucking scary they were, and me, who couldn't, wasn't like well enough to be like, I should not smoke before a movie. Just never watched them because I was like, if I can't get high and watch a movie and not be scared, I won't watch it. But finally, I stopped doing that, and I finally watched these movies. Well, the first 2, because the third one hadn't come out yet when I first watched these, and they were really good. The first one, this is my favorite horror movie of all time, actually. I've watched a lot of horror movies now since getting back into it. Old classics that I had seen as kids, and then all the new ones that have been coming out. This is one of the best. Fucking love it. This movie just gripped me from start to finish. It was so freaking good. The second one is good too. It's a little long. This is like one of the longest fucking horror movies I think there's ever been, right? It's 134 minutes. Fucking ridiculous. Still really good though. There's a lot of really scary stuff in this one. The third one is probably the weakest of the bunch, but it still has a lot of really good moments in it, and I could watch Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson do this shit all day, so I hope they make another one, and hope they can get back to the fucking just masterpieces that the first one is, and even the second one by extension with some of its scenes. This is just a really good, one of the best horror trilogies out. The trilogy that taught kids all around the world how to masturbate by waxing on and waxing off. It is the Karate Kid trilogy. This is absolute classic 80s entertainment right there. It's a fucking great box set. The first Karate Kid is absolutely incredible. One of the best fucking coming of age 80s movies ever made. The second and the third one are fine too. The second one's good. The third one, I honestly couldn't tell you a goddamn thing that happens in it. But these are all really solid movies from what I remember. Well, the first 2 I remember because I watched them not too long ago. I've still yet to rewatch the third one at this point, but I'll get there. But this hits that high just because the first Karate Kid and by extension the second one are just such good fucking 80s movies. And I love classic 80s movies. I grew up on classic 80s movies. I watched these movies all the time as kids. They're freaking phenomenal. Up next is a trilogy, the one trilogy that I don't own because the cowards at Netflix won't release their movies on physical media, and that is The Fear Streets. Another good horror trilogy to come out. They're horror, but they're not so much like violently scary like The Conjuring. They're more just like Goosebumps level scary, which makes sense because they were a collection of books written by R.L. Stein. It was a really solidly entertaining collection of movies. The second one that took place at the summer camp was my favorite. followed by 1994, which was the first one, and then the last one, taking up the rear, kind of falters in at the finish line, where it tries to do too much with all three of the tie-in lines, like linking up by the end. But the journey along to get there was a fucking hoot. It was a very fun, entertaining, perfect summer release that they did last year. I would really like you guys, Netflix, please put it on physical media. Let me own it. I want to see that beautiful trilogy in the collection. Please do it. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come on you? What? Come for you? Bad Boys movies, they're solid. They're good, fun action, like adventure movies. Of course, Will Smith always bringing the heat. Martin Lawrence. Forgot his name for a second. He brings the fucking. They play off each other really well. This movie very solid. Love this movie as a kid. This movie also super entertaining. Way too fucking long, and then way too late to the party was Bad Boys for Life. It's entertaining enough. Still my least favorite of the bunch, simply because some of the CGI in it and bad special effects. And there's something to be said for missing Michael Bay. It's very weird that you would complain that a movie didn't have enough Michael Bay in it, but here we are. I needed more Michael Bay. I'm sorry. He is the Bad Boys franchise. He's the secret sauce. The newest trilogy to hit the block and another MCU edition, and it is Tom Holland's Spider-Man trilogy. We've got the Homecoming Steelbook. We've got Far From Home. No Way Home hasn't come out on physical media yet, but don't you worry, I will be getting it the second it comes out. No Way Home is the best of these three movies, simply because, spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen it at this point, fuck you, Toby and Andrew return to the fold and really encapsulate the essence of Spider-Man. Although No Way Home does have some really good stuff going for Tom too. I really like how it's kind of like his origin story in his final trilogy movie, and how it ends off with him estranged from everybody and really becoming that loner Spider-Man that we know from the comics and love. I think it was a really interesting thing to do it in their last of the trilogy movies before setting up their what I imagine will be the next trilogy of movies for him. Far From Home is solid. Jake Gyllenhaal is the best part about it, of course, because he's fucking Jake Gyllenhaal. He's always bringing the heat. And then Homecoming is way better than it has any right being. The really solid movies. Tom Holland is one of the better Spider-Man to come around. Tobey is still the OG, the best in the bunch, but Tom really puts his own stamp on it here in this collection of movies. Everyone's favorite assless chaps arrive next in the Mad Max trilogy. I know it says there's 4 movies here. Fury Road we're just going to ignore because that's way down the line. That has nothing to do with our other 3. Mad Max is a ridiculously great post-apocalyptic action insanity movies. The first one, very restrained. Still solid, but easily my least favorite of the bunch. The Road Warrior, that's a fucking wild movie right there. The assless BDSM chaps that attack the Road Warrior in that movie crack me up even still to this day. Beyond Thunderdome is probably the most mainstream accessible of the 3 trilogy. I actually have a soft spot for it. I actually really enjoy Beyond Thunderdome also. So in this movie, we strike that balance way high up here simply because this is 3 high-octane adventure movies directed and written by an absolute pro and starring the king of action at the time in the 80s, fucking Mel Gibson. Whatever you think of him personally, that man knew how to fucking rip rocket through some action in the 80s. Make sure your mojo's on for this next one. It is the Austin Powers trilogy. Yeah, baby. Very yeah. We've got the International Man of Mystery, The Spy Who Motherfucking Shagged Me, and Goldmember. I love all 3 of these movies. I don't care what you say about Goldmember. It is fucking great. The intro alone with Steven Spielberg and them shooting the fake Austin Powers movie is so epically great to this day. Every single one of these movies is just picture-perfect comedy. I fucking love it. Mike Myers is an absolute gem in all of these movies. They are so much fun. I've got nothing more to say about them other than if you haven't seen them, I don't know what you're doing with your life and you need to go out and rent and watch these movies pronto. Go on, I'll wait. You go do that. Probably 2 of the best action comedies hit next, with the third one being pretty good, is the Rush Hour trilogy. Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker, these movies, they're just so freaking good. The second one especially. The second one is one of my favorite action comedies of all time. Let me see your badge. Let me see it again. I didn't get a good look at it. It's so freaking good. Chris Tucker, absolutely hilarious. Jackie Chan, just fucking the best action superhero we've got in the game. He was just so freaking good. The first two movies are just picture perfect. I fucking love them. The second one is my favorite of the bunch, but the first one is very hot on its heels. And the third one still has its moments. It's still really freaking good at times. And it shows that the magic between the two of these guys was still there. Don't know if we'll ever get a fourth one, but I don't think we need it. We've got the first two to go back to if we ever want to watch another Rush Hour movie. It's just so freaking good. I just love it. Whenever we talk about these movies, we start to get to the really good stuff. I just want to like go watch the movie now. So I'll be back again. I'm gonna go watch Rush Hour 2. Life finds a way in this next pick. And that is Jurassic Park. I know it says Jurassic World, it's a 5-movie collection. Just ignore that. We are talking specifically about the first trilogy, the string of trilogies, Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, following the adventures of our intrepid heroes from the first 3 movies, Dr. Alan Grant, Dr. Ellie Sadler, and Dr. Ian Malcolm. Jurassic Park, the quintessential fucking absolutely insanely good fucking horror, thriller, action, adventure, whatever you want to call it. It's just fucking incredible. Changed the game in what special effects could do. I fucking love the first Jurassic Park. You can watch the movie as many times and never get bored of it. I love the book too. Jurassic Park book, fucking so good. Michael Crichton, you are God. Rest in peace, my man. You're the fucking king. The Lost World, while being an absolutely inferior sequel, still has a lot of really good ideas and a lot of good moments in it. That section where the T-Rexes come to get its child back from Ian and his group is so fucking good and thrilling. And I even have a soft spot for myself at the end of the movie with the T-Rex rampaging through San Francisco or San Diego, wherever it is. I grew up on it. I was a kid when that came out. I saw it in the drive-in when it first came out, so I have a soft spot for shit like that. So it's not as offensible to me as it is to some other people. Although I will never be one of the people that can defend the absolute Looney Tunes section of the Velociraptor attack in the rundown town with Ian and his daughter and all that. When she fucking like does the pole vaulting shit to kill that one Velociraptor, I'm just like, stop, please make it stop. The third one the third one has a lot of really good moments in it as well. There's a lot of silly shit. Alan, we're looking at you. That scene, hilarious. I fucking love it. But there are some moments that are really good in that movie. The Carnotaurus was a great way to switch up the villain. There's the whole spot where they're in the boat on the water, and it's that rain section where the Carnotaurus attacks, or is it, or it might not be a Carnotaurus. I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm trying to think. Spinosaurus? Was it the Spinosaurus? Carnotaurus was dinosaur. I'm getting my dinosaurs all mixed up. The Spinosaurus. When the Spinosaurus attacks them on the water and they're trying to get the phone call off to Ellie Sadler, that's a really fucking good, thrilling scene. So there's a lot of good stuff in the sequels, with the mixture of a lot of bad stuff, with the first one being an absolutely perfect fucking blockbuster movie. The final trilogy of MCU movies hits next, and that is the Captain America trilogy, the first Avenger, the Winter Soldier, and Civil War. The Captain America trilogy is the best of the best when it comes to MCU. They always really struck gold with that character and always knew exactly what they were doing with him. The first one is just a great, fun, old school adventure war movie. Winter Soldier is the clear winner of the pack, which is being a really great 70s type of noir thriller. And then Civil War is probably the most MCU-y of the movies, where it's just shoehorning so many characters in, but they really make it work by containing it down to its essence of making it a story with Iron Man v Captain America v the Winter Soldier. It really is a great culmination of the stuff that came before it, and it was really great that our villain was not this big huge villain with a big huge battle at the end, but just simply a grieving father who turned the Avengers against each other. Like, that's really fucking powerful and really fucking great. This is easily the best that MCU has put out, in my opinion. Caesar! Apes together, strong. We have the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the new Planet of the Apes. These movies are so freaking good. Talk about a trilogy that came out of left field. When they made the first one, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, never expected that we get a trilogy out of these, much less a really good fucking trilogy out of these. This is really solid. This was a really good setup for what was to come. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is easily my favorite of the bunch. This movie is so freaking good. And of course, directed by Matt Reeves, so it makes so much sense. He really fucking took the building blocks of Rise and turned it into such a good fucking middle outing. And then War for the Planet of the Apes, I gotta give it a rewatch, but I remember not being the biggest fan of it when I saw it in theaters. It was easily my least favorite of the trilogy, but I feel like I need to go back and give it a rewatch and see if now, behind a newer lens, maybe I might find some new appreciation for it. Up next, I'm just going to show the big boy because I don't have him individually, but we're talking about the Prequel Trilogy. Oh. Say what you will about the Prequel Trilogy, but as I talked about, certain movies have hit high up because I grew up with them and have not only the nostalgia factor, but the good memories of growing up with them, and the Prequel Trilogy is one of those. I know that the movies are objectively bad at times, that there is a lot of nonsense in them, but god damn it if I don't love them all the same. The Phantom Menace, the whole ending of that movie with the Duel of Fates, and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul, and they are literally battling for the fate of Anakin's soul. It is fucking incredible. Attack of the Clones, everything with Obi-Wan and Kamino and everything, absolutely great. Sure, a lot of the really whiny dialogue with Anakin Skywalker and freaking Amidala is really stilted and tough, but that's more George Lucas's fault. But also, he's writing a romance for these teen characters that are pretty fucking whiny and bitchy to begin with. That's their characters. That's what they're supposed to be like. They're supposed to think they're dumb and immature. So it kind of works if you really think about it. And my man, I hate sand too. That shit is coarse and irritating, and it gets everywhere. You're right. And Revenge of the Sith, easily the best of the trilogy. There is not a frame wasted in that movie. That movie is fucking balls to the wall great. Still has the greatest lightsaber fight ever. It blows my mind that on the list of things to do in the sequel trilogy, there wasn't at the top of that list, outdo the battle in Revenge of the Sith. Nope, the lightsaber battles in the sequel trilogy are dog shit compared to everything in the prequel trilogy. They are great movies in their own right. You can fight about it all the live long day. People will continue to fight about it all the live long day. But in my eyes, for what I like out of my movies, mixed with the stuff that I grew up on, the prequel trilogy hits all the right marks for me. And I will talk about my love for them and I will defend them for as long as I have breath to do so. Up next is everyone's favorite murderous assassin, and that is the John Wick trilogy. We got John Wick, we got John Wick Chapter 2, and we got Chapter 3, Parabellum. These movies are all fucking incredible. Who would have ever thought that this silly idea when it first dropped that trailer that it would grow into this insanely amazing franchise that we have? But thank God it did. I still remember seeing this in theaters with my friend and being like, that was a fucking incredible action movie. And then they followed up with number 2, which was also an incredible action movie. And then they followed it up with number 3, which is an absolutely balls to the walls insane action movie. I love all 3 of these movies. They're fucking incredible. They're so good. And I can't wait for the next one. Just keep making these. If you can keep making these at the level that these 3 have been, I will take as many John Wicks as you can make. I will take as many John Wicks as Keanu Reeves can stomach his body to get through. Keep them coming. Never go against the family. Especially when that family is the Godfather. We've got this lovely little DVD collection here, soon to be replaced on Tuesday with the 4K edition, which I cannot wait. We're actually getting the first movie at my theater this weekend, so I can't wait to sneak in and watch that in the big screen. It's gonna be fucking awesome. We've got 1, 2, and 3. The first 2, nothing really needs to be said about The Godfather that hasn't already been said. The first 2 movies are absolutely picture perfect, just fucking incredible crime mafioso movies. Even the 3rd movie, while it is annoying at times and has a lot of stuff not to like, there is still a lot of good stuff to have in it, which helps round out this trilogy. It is fucking so good. I really hope we get the second one in theaters also at some point, because it'd be really sweet to see that one on the big screen too. The 3rd one, you don't have to do that, but at least give us the second one. Mario Puzo's The Godfather, one of the classics, the OG. We're soaring to new heights with the best animated trilogy on this ranking of trilogies, and that is How to Train Your Dragon. We've got this beautiful steelbook for number 1. We've got number 2. We've got number 3, The Hidden World. These movies are perfect. They're so fucking good. They are just absolutely perfect animation with great storytelling, great human emotion, great pathos, great emotionality to it. They're just fun adventure movies. The first one is adorable. The second two made me cry every time I watch it. The second one, I mean, I don't want to give spoilers at this point, but if you haven't seen them, what are you doing? But when somebody dies at the end of the second one, it gets me. And what they have to say goodbye to at the end of the third one also gets me every time. But it's like tears of joy. You're just like, this movie is just fucking beautiful. I love all 3 of these movies. They are picture perfect. They are probably second only to the Toy Story movies, which, spoiler alert, the Toy Story movies aren't in this collection because there's 4 of them, and I know I ignored the 4th one in so many other movies, but not for Toy Story. I know, but the Toy Story movies really is a quadrilogy, so I have to stick with that one. But don't you worry, I'm gonna make a companion video where we're gonna rank every franchise that's ever been crafted, and Toy Story will get its due then. But for now, How to Train Your Dragon is the pinnacle of animated trilogies. A trilogy that I never thought I'd even like, much less rank this high, hits next, and that is the Before Trilogy. We've got Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. This is a collection of movies that are just simply need to be seen to really understand how fucking good they are. It's just, they're made, I don't know if it was 9, 12, 10, somewhere in the 9 to 12 years apart, they would make each one of these movies. And it would just be checking in on these 2 characters at where they were at that point in their lives. And the whole movie is just them having a conversation. And it's just them pontificating about life philosophically, all this stuff, and romantically. They're so fucking good. This one sees our 2 characters meeting on a train, and they both get off at the same stop, and they literally just walk around. I forget what town it is, Paris or somewhere in Europe, Vienna, I don't know, somewhere. They just walk through the streets all night, and they just have a conversation the entire movie. And then it ends with them going their separate ways, never knowing if they're going to see each other again. In this one, I think it's like 10 years later, and they meet back up because he's written a book about their meeting in the first movie, and she's there to see him at a book signing, and he's got a few hours to kill before his flight, so they just go on a walk around whatever city they're in there, and they have a sweet discussion. And then in this one, it turns out that following the events of that movie, they ended up staying together and getting married, and now they live in Greece together, and it's just another conversation at this stage in their life. This one is my favorite because this entire movie is just basically a fight that's been brewing over from everything that's gone in this journey. These movies are fucking incredible. I hope they make another one, another 10 years down the line from whenever this one came out, right? When did this one come out? Of course, it's not going to tell me easily. 2013. Ooh, I don't know. I don't think they've filmed anything lately, so unless they're going to surprise us next year with another one, I don't know. But I hope so, because it would be incredible to catch up with them again this late in life and seeing their next set of troubles that go on, because these movies are absolute perfection. And if you love romance, anything like that, you need to check out these movies. You see, there's 2 kinds of people in this world. Those who like Westerns and everyone else. Bunch of fucking plebes. We're talking the Dollars trilogy now, and you better fucking like, this is the pinnacle of Westerns. You gotta love Westerns. When we're talking the Dollars trilogy, we've got a fistful of dollars. We got For a Few Dollars More, and the creme de la creme, the good, the bad, and the ugly. These movies are all absolutely perfect. Everyone in them is fine. Clint Eastwood is fucking incredible. Lee Van Cleef is fucking so good. I fucking love him. He's great in all these movies. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is the clear winner, of course. It's fucking quintessential. It's a perfect Western movie. But both of these are really fucking good as well. They each have their moments in them, and they are so fucking good. This is a trilogy that you shouldn't sleep on. It's something that you need to watch. Every single movie in this collection is fucking perfect. So get out and watch them right now. You see, I'm buying this here hotel and setting some new rules about the pool. It's the Dark Knight trilogy is up next. I fucking love these movies. I think Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne is so great because he plays such a good, just rich dickhead all the time to like keep them from thinking he's Batman. And I love all the scenes whenever he's just being the rich dickhead that Bruce Wayne is. It's so great. These movies are absolute classics, with the exception of The Dark Knight Rises. It's not terrible. I still like it. It's much better than I used to think it was, but it's still not great, especially when you have it in such great company as Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight especially being one of the most perfect movies ever made, my second favorite superhero movie of all time. It's just when your first two movies are fucking just aces and A pluses, for The Dark Knight Rises to come out afterwards, it just puts a stanky taste in everyone's mouth. But the first two movies are enough to put it up this high because I fucking love both of those movies. I can watch them anytime that they're on, especially The Dark Knight. It is fucking perfect. Tom Holland showed some promise before, but he's got nothing on the original web slinger, and it is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man trilogy. This is very much in the same vein as the Dark Knight trilogy, where the first two movies are fucking perfect. They are just absolute, just perfect moments in time of cinema that just hit all the right beats. Spider-Man 2 especially, that is my favorite superhero movie of all time. And then there's Spider-Man 3. It's not bad. It's got a lot of really good moments in it. And that's right, I'm still talking about emo Spider-Man. He's the fucking man. That's probably the most entertaining part about those movies. It's really the rewriting Uncle Ben's story and the Sandman stuff getting shoehorned in that really like kind of tend to tank that movie. But the first two movies alone put it up here because those two movies are absolutely perfect. I watch them all the time. They absolutely nailed Peter Parker in these movies in making Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker just the absolute nerdiest loser ever to face the fucking Green Sun. Like, he is just an absolute fucking loser in the first movie, and then they just pile on shit after shit after shit on him in the second one, and he just keeps coming. They make him so endearing to us. There's just Sam Raimi is just a fucking god in those first two movies. And that's why I'm really holding that hope for the new Doctor Strange movie, really hoping Sam Raimi brings his Sam Raimi prowess to the MCU. We got a good one here. We're getting into the, now just everything is just near perfect. These next ones are just near perfect, our top five. We're starting it off with the Back to the Future trilogy. These movies, all three of these movies, absolute classics to me. And I know some people would argue that the third one does not hit the strengths that the other two do. I would argue that they do. There's just the it might just be the Western lover in me, but I think all three of these movies gel together to create such one cohesively fun adventure story that they just work. It just works. They're just such quintessentially fun movies. I could watch these movies over and over again and never get bored. The first one especially is one of the greatest movies of all time to ever be released. It's just everything fires on all cylinders. We've got classic characters, classic adventures. Everything about it is so much fun. It's just a testament to how good Robert Zemeckis was in the 80s to put out just this fucking absolute classic of a gem. Fucking love all three of these movies, and I could never not watch them. You want to put them on? I'm all for it. Anyone says, yo, Back to the Future tonight? Fucking yes. Why are you even asking? Put it on. Just like my favorite, which is pumping it up like a boombox. We're going back to the original trilogy, baby. OG time. Yeah. The OG trilogy is a fucking classic. What can be said that hasn't been said a million times about the OG classic? A New Hope, fucking incredible. Empire Strikes Back, the best Star Wars movie ever made. One of the best movies ever made. Return of the Jedi, little silly, but still great. Even though it tried to be The Force Awakens before The Force Awakens, where they're just like, hey, let's do another Death Star. It's just really silly. But I mean, it makes sense in the context of the OG story because, of course, Palpatine would just be like, they killed the first one. Well, why don't we make a second one? So it's not as offensive as it is in The Force Awakens, but there's a lot of really good stuff in The Return of the Jedi. So it has really great lightsaber battle, and everything going on with Luke and Darth Vader is phenomenal. The OG Star Wars, one of the classics, will always be one of the classics. I grew up on those movies. I fucking watched those movies all the time when I was sick as a kid, when I was healthy, when it was a good day, when it was a bad day, and every day in between. You can never go wrong with the OG Star Wars. We're traveling back to Middle Earth to hit the top three, and that is The Lord of the Rings. Oh man, what this is like everything. Once you get to the top ones, it's like, what can be said about these movies that hasn't already been said a million times? The acting, phenomenal. The action, phenomenal. phenomenal. Epic in scope, blockbuster filmmaking, phenomenal. The Battle of Helm's Deep, fucking so good. There's so much good stuff in this. Frodo and Sam, classic. Merry and Pippin, great comical relief. Aragorn, the fucking man. Gandalf, the fucking man. Everything about these movies is fucking incredible. I love them. I love the theatrical versions. I love the extended versions. I love everything about this trilogy of movies. It is absolutely perfect in my eyes. The Two Towers is my favorite of the bunch. There's just something about that meaty middle chapter that's just so good, that expands the world beyond just the Fellowship. That's just so freaking good. And of course, it's got the Battle of Helm's Deep, so naturally, it's just gonna fucking hit those highs. This is one of the best trilogies of all time. It is fucking perfect. Another perfect trilogy. It's the Indiana Jones trilogy. And I know what you're saying. Hey, don't I see a fourth one in there? No, you don't. Just gonna pretend that little guy, you just pretend like that little guy doesn't exist. There are only 3 Indiana Jones movies worth talking about. I know they're making a 5th one on the way, but we're going to ignore that bad boy too. Because as an original trilogy, way back in the day when just Steven Spielberg, Harrison Ford, and George Lucas were up to no good making those Indiana Jones flicks, they were the best trilogy of all time. You want to talk about me watching shit all day? Star Wars? Forget about it. Indiana Jones was my bread and fucking butter. I've got sweatshirts of it. I've got merchandise. I've got fucking tattoos of it. Indiana Jones is the greatest shit of all time in my eyes. Raiders of the Lost Ark is my number 3 favorite movie of all time, only behind Casablanca and E.T. It's that fucking good. Temple of Doom, another great fucking movie, absolutely perfect. And The Last Crusade as well, rounding out the trilogy of just perfect perfection, crafted by 3 craftsmen at the top of their game in the 80s. There's nothing better than Indiana Jones, except for our number 1 pick. And our number 1 pick is going to upset, I imagine, pretty much anybody who's made it through this list to see what my number 1 was. Because I know what you're thinking. It's like, he's already done Lord of the Rings, he's already done Star Wars, he's already done Indiana Jones. What could be left that could be his number 1? And it's a collection of movies that I grew up on, and it hit me in the perfect spot because not only is it something that I grew up on, but it came out in theaters as I was growing up. So it was something that I was able to experience for the first time as it came out in theaters and really ingested. It was something that was made for my childhood, that was made specifically for me as I was growing up. That is the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. I know what you're thinking. Again, there was 2 more after that, but those 2 don't count because it doesn't count. This is a cohesive story, this trilogy from start to finish, a cohesive trilogy on these characters. And then they decided to make 2 more with Johnny Depp doing Johnny Depp stuff, but those are side adventures that just don't count. This is the meat and potatoes of the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. I think it's a perfect trilogy for what they were trying to do. The first movie is absolutely just fucking mind-numbingly incredible, so much better than it had any right being. Freaking Captain Barbossa, one of the greatest villains ever crafted, with a great ghost story injected into this. I think Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann play great straight men to the rest of these characters. They really are the anchor in the love story that's on here. I think Elizabeth Swann especially has one of the greatest arcs in a movie of all time, where she starts as this really repressed young girl in this society that wants more than to just what her family has expected her to do, and ends up being the fucking pirate king. Like, that's fucking, like, it always blows my mind when they're talking about there not being enough strong women in cinema. Nobody ever brings up Elizabeth Swann, the goddamn pirate king. These movies are so fucking good. This movie, I know everyone always tends to say is their favorite. I fucking love it, but my favorite in the series is actually Dead Man's Chest. I just love the way they build everything up to the culmination in this story that ends with the 3-way sword fight between Jack Sparrow, Will Turner, and Commodore Norrington. I just think the way that they flesh out all 3 of the characters to build to their wants and needs as we get to the end, and then watching the 3 of them entangle with each other to get those needs, is really freaking good. This movie came out 2006. I was 16 in 11th grade. I remember it coming out over the summer. I saw it 3 times in theaters. It was my fucking jam. It just spoke to me in a way that not many movies do. This was just perfect action adventure movies. And while this one may be my least favorite in the series, I still think it's really good. I didn't like it when I was a kid, simply because I think I was riding too much of the highs of Dead Man's Chest and expected another Dead Man's Chest when I saw this one, whereas this movie is a very different movie, but it should be a very different movie. I like that all 3 of these movies are very distinct, and I've come to appreciate this movie a lot more as I've gotten older. The end of this movie is absolutely fucking wild and totally justifies its outrageous runtime. There is so much fun in all 3 of these movies. I freaking love it. They're so freaking good. I can go on and on for fucking days about how much I love these movies. Honestly, all of the top 5 are they're all just like one line across of just how fucking good and perfect all of those trilogies are. They are some of the best that you could watch, and I implore you, if you haven't seen any of these trilogies, if you haven't seen any of these movies, get out there and check these movies out, because you're just missing a gold mine, a fucking treasure trove of fucking incredible movies. And that's my list. That was a fucking mouthful of movies to get through. There are so many trilogies in there. A lot of bad stuff with like one really good movie in it, and then a lot of really good stuff. So there's just a plethora of good stuff to check out. But I hope you've seen in some of this, you maybe find a trilogy that you haven't seen, some new stuff for you to check out. You're reminded of an old classic that you haven't watched in a while, and you're gonna go pop that bitch in right now and check it out. This is what it's here for. I just want you out there to love and appreciate movies the way I did, and hopefully you're finding some new gems for you to add to your movie collection, to your movie watching that you fucking love. Hopefully out there you find your next best favorite movie. But that'll do it for all of us here at The Outpost. Look for the companion video that'll probably drop at some point in the ether of the next coming weeks, where I will dive into literally every franchise that's ever existed, and we'll rank up all of those bad boys to make it an even fucking crazier video than this. But until that day, you have been you, I have been me. These are the movies that we love so much, and until next time, adventure on, dude.